You've probably heard any number of times while you were growing up that success in America is based on merit. But is that actually the case? Joining us now to break it down is professor at Yale Law School and author of the Meritocracy Trap, Daniel Markovits. Welcome to the Damage Report.
Hi, pleasure to be here.
Glad to have you here. So tell me about this. Tell me about this book. You're looking into the idea that America is a meritocracy. What are some of your main takeaways?
Great. So, meritocracy, as you said in your intro, sounds like common sense. It's hard to disagree with the thought that people should get ahead based on their own accomplishments, not say on their parents' social class. The idea of the book is that meritocracy isn't actually working in that way, that it's created a kind of a competition that even when everybody plays by the rules, only the rich can win. So the problem behind all the inequality that we have in the country today isn't that we have too little meritocracy, it's that we have too much. The book's view is that the system is rigged and that meritocracy itself is the culprit.
So that's obviously very interesting. And it seems like to state that you work hard, you get ahead, that's the thing that people say. It seems like there would be any number of ways to look into the actual data to show whether that's true. And so I'm curious, the people who are spreading this, are they referencing actual historical data showing connections between educational achievement and things like that? Or is there good evidence that shows that in fact you have a lot of effects of your family, generational wealth and related things like that?
So the really striking thing about the situation we've got ourselves in is that both are true at the same time. It's both true that people get ahead based on educational achievement and that you have these incredible connections between family and wealth. And the reason why is that the rich in America today buy schooling for their children in a quantity and with intensity that nobody else can match. So that what you have is rich kids get the most intensive, most expensive, and most effective education. And then if you compete based on achievement, the rest of us who don't have that kind of education can't compete, and it's not our fault. It's a structural thing that rich schools just train their students in ways that nobody else can keep up with.
And obviously I think a lot of people are gonna look at this and say, well, look, clearly there's a huge amount of income inequality, like people at the lower end are being left behind. But you also point out that this myth of meritocracy is not even good for the rich as well, right?
No, it's not. So let's just first of all focus on the first part. If you look at the Forbes 20 top private schools in America right now, they spend something like $75,000 per student per year on educating their kids, compared to a national average in public schools of $12,000 to $15,000. And you can see how if you go to a school that spends a fifth as much as these other fancy private schools, you're not gonna get the same education, and that's bad for you. But on the other hand, if you're one of the kids in these fancy private schools, all of that money, it benefits you, but it also tries to squeeze as much education into you as possible. You have to have tutors, you get extra homework, you're constantly tested, there's pressure everywhere, and that's not good for you as a person either.
So you've laid out in this book this idea that I'm sure different people would define what American meritocracy is like in slightly different ways, but clearly there are major issues with it. Do you have a suggestion or any suggestions for a replacement for this myth, a better way to think about success in America, what actually increases your odds of doing well? Is there a replacement for that myth?
Yeah, look, I think the traditional strategy that progressives have tried to do is to double down on meritocracy, to have better and fairer tests, better ways of picking who gets ahead. And I think that system is gonna fail. The right way to do it is to reduce absolutely the difference between the training that rich people get and that everybody else gets. To force these elite public schools to have elite private schools to have many more students, to admit more middle class and working class kids, and to make the elite less elite. And there are easy policy ways to force them to do that. But the most important thing to understand is that when outcomes get big enough, when differences in outcomes get big enough, equality of opportunity is impossible. And the idea that we can legitimate vast inequalities of outcomes by a fair competition is a myth.
Okay, the book is The Meritocracy Trap, How America's Foundational Myth Feeds Inequality, Dismantles the Middle Class, and Devours the Elite. Daniel Markovits, thank you so much for joining us on the show today.
Hey, it's been a real pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.